welcome to episode 152 of our SAP on Azure video podcast. Today is July 20th, and together with Robert and Goran, we're here to talk about anything related to SAP and Microsoft. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
So I still remember when Harald Kuck published his blog post on Steampunk, or the SAP Business Technology Platform ABAP environment. Harald never published a lot of blog posts, so you knew if there is something from him, it's going to be big. In the meantime, 4 years have passed since this original blog post, and Steampunk is used by lots of customers to build extensions using the ABAP Cloud model, either via the Embedded Steampunk directly on the S/4HANA system or via the Business Technology Platform. A few weeks ago, Steampunk was now also released for BTP on Azure, and I'm really happy to have Jentsch from SAP, together with our own Martin Pankraz here with us today to talk a little about Steampunk and what it means to have it available on BTP on Azure. But as always, before we hand over to them, let's quickly look at some of the news from this week. And Goran, we have something new with Azure NetApp Files.
Yeah, so let's start with the infrastructure. Nice blog or documentation from Garrett. Actually, there are a few others authors from Microsoft and NetApp as well on Azure NetApp support for DB2 with AzAcSnap. The long story, make it short. The Azure NetApp offers a snapshot feature, very popular for the quick backup and restore, compared to much faster than the file streaming backup, and no influence actually on SAP performance, no influence on the downtime. AzAcSnap is an Azure tool. In a preview, supports the DB2 and the Azure NetApp. I mean, it's a preview stuff, ensuring the database consistency. And basically, the blog talks about this kind of context. So we know this feature for the HANA, and now it's kind of being extended for the SAP DB2. DB2 is also very important database. Some Unilever are using the for example, we have a public story there. So again, very useful, definitely very useful. Fast backup, restore. It's super important. No downtime for the SAP as well. Always important. Yeah.
Perfect.
So very nice blog. The next part, it's really also kind of preview feature called Microsoft Boost Preview for the virtual machines. The story is basically that, generally speaking, a hypervisor, I mean, we're using virtual environment, is handling the virtual networking and the storage functionality of the virtual machine. Now, this functionality through the Azure Boost is basically offloaded to the specialized hardware, meaning as a consequence, we have boost on the networking throughput and storage throughput and IOPS. So as an example, 200 gigabits, we are, promising 200 gigabits networking throughput and 10 gigabytes per second for the storage throughut and 400,000 IOPS. Now, if we go just in the next link, for example, the MV2 VMs as an example, if you go to M1 140, exactly 416 as an example. So if you go on the right side, we have 30,000 Gbps compared to the 200, for example. And if we go for example for the storage part, storage, for example, the non-cached 80,000. The third from the right column, 18,000 IOPS. Here we have 400,000 IOPS, and for the VM, and 2 GBS, and here we have kind of 10 GBS. So, I mean, a huge benefit. I've seen crazy loads which are really sometimes rarely hitting even such a big VM networking and throughput limits. Customers sometimes do select start from the universe, in the SAP system, and so definitely will be a beneficial. Yeah.
Cool, perfect. Yeah, looking forward to seeing this with more and more customers then.
Yeah,
that sounds really cool.
So people can apply for the private preview and try it. Some customers do, so definitely they are welcome to test it.
Perfect. Cool. Then moving on, or actually picking up where we left last week with Volker. He had talked about the recap event, and in the meantime, all the sessions that had been recorded during the recap event are available here from broadcast.sap.com. So the link is as always in the show notes, and there's the video, including the keynote or the welcoming message from Jürgen Müller and Daniel Hutzel talking about or doing the intro on CAP. So it's a long, you can see here it's 6 hours. I only started to watch the beginning so far, but I'm sure if you are interested in CAP and couldn't attend the event, then watching this replay is, I think, definitely worth doing. Speaking of events, just this week we had, or actually have, I'm not sure if it's still, no, I think we had Microsoft Inspire. So our partner event, and there were lots of announcements, a lot of information that was released from Microsoft. So Satya again had a keynote, followed by Judson and a lot of other folks. And obviously, all the information is here, also featuring some of the partners that worked with Microsoft. And there are also some really interesting blog posts on what was announced, because again, there are a lot of things that were announced. And there's a great blog post on all the Teams announcements, for example. There's a lot of information on what's happening with the Microsoft 365, and I want to highlight one of these posts, and that's on AI. So obviously everything is about AI at the moment, but it's really nice in this blog post where we highlight a few things where Microsoft is really investing or bringing solutions now to the market. So Bing Chat for Enterprise, the Copilot pricing for Microsoft 365, and the Microsoft Sales Copilot, and a lot of other things. So if you want to take a look at some of the things that were announced, I think this blog post is definitely very, very interesting there. Moving on, from AI, right now there's also an AI skill challenge going on. So basically there are, I think, 4 different challenges that you can choose from. So if you want to get your hands dirty, if you want to play a little with AI on the Microsoft side, then just join one of these challenges. It's really a nice learning and exercise experience. So I think it's definitely worth to spend some time there and participate here in these challenges. One very fresh thing, and I'm sure we'll have Martin for this back on the show to talk about this, because he was very, very much involved in the whole development, and I know he has already some cool stuff planned from additional blog posts. But just tomorrow. The blog post is tomorrow, yes, but I definitely want to have you back on the show to talk about the Azure API management and OData support. So basically, as of today, or as of yesterday, when we didn't have this functionality, using Azure OpenAI as Azure API management with OData services was a little complicated. And now with this new capability, you can really just connect to an OData endpoint, to the metadata information, and then API management can consume these services. But again, tomorrow we'll have a blog post from Martin on this, and we'll definitely have a deep dive with him on the show in the next few weeks as well. Then finally, one last thing that I saw that I really liked. I mean, we had Richard Duffy on the show here some time ago. I have worked with Rainer Zinow in the past already, and it was great to see both of them here in this interview, in this discussion, all about obviously SAP Business One. But it's a really nice session that talks about, or where they talk about how important Business One is. Also maybe of interest, I mean, we had Moshe, a partner from a partner some time as well on the show, who talked about SAP Business One, the extensibility, how this can also be integrated in the Microsoft world. And I thought it was really interesting to get this discussion between Richard and Rainer here in this video, like how important Business One is. I think Rainer talked about 80,000 customers, or almost 80,000 customers that are in the meantime using Business One. And yeah, so if you have time, check this out. I think that was also quite interesting. Good. With this, that was all the news from this week. So I think with this, we can actually start introducing or switching over to our guests. Maybe Frank, maybe you can start. Tell a little what you do at SAP, and with this, let's hand over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Holger. And first of all, thank you very much to have the opportunity to be here in this series. So it's my first time. So
you first.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, my name is Jentsch. So I'm working at SAP in the ABAP development area, and I'm leading this product with the famous name SAP BTP ABAP environment. So very long name, very long product name. So therefore, I'm always using the abbreviation, which is a Steampunk. Was initially it only an internally used product name, but I think 3 or 4 years ago, and it was also publicly known, and therefore it's no secret. So Steampunk, nothing else, exactly the same like SAP BTP ABAP environment. So I would like to do a small recap of what does it mean, what is the purpose of this product. So let me just quickly show the landing page of the product. So what is SAP BTP ABAP environment? So it's nothing else than a platform as a service offering for ABAP. I think it's not needed to explain ABAP and the importance of ABAP for SAP. So it's the basis for the core applications, S/4HANA and others. So very important what we did now. And it's in the meanwhile, 5 years ago, we launched this product to bring ABAP into BTP and to serve ABAP, the ABAP platform as a platform for customers and partners to develop cloud-ready applications and extensions. So how it works, so in principle, we will see later everything in action. So, but basically it's an Eclipse-based IDE for the development of the ABAP artifacts. It's intended to create OData services, and on top we are making use of the Fiori approach and SAP Fiori toolset. So important to mention that we do not support this good old SAP GUI approach. So there's no SEAD for the development, but also no SAP GUI for the business users. So that's basically this kind of renovation. What is very, very important also to explain is what we launched in the meanwhile, which is ABAP Cloud. So I would like to explain this also very shortly. So we have a community landing page for the ABAP language in general, for the ABAP development. And there's also a nice explanation what is ABAP Cloud. And I would like to just highlight the most important things which needs to be considered, because it's also very relevant to understand why Steampunk itself is important, and what is the role of Steampunk in this overall strategy of S/4HANA extensibility. So first of all, ABAP Cloud is a development model. So it's not a product, it's the development model, which was initially introduced with Steampunk, but ABAP Cloud is the term for the new ABAP development model. And it consists of using RAP, using Eclipse, using released objects and all these things to really be able to build cloud-ready applications and extensions. So it's not completely new. We have all the also ingredients from earlier times. So all these good things like internal tables, the integration to the database layer, everything is there. The data dictionary objects, tables, data elements, domain, everything is also supported with ABAP Cloud. And the important thing to understand is that it's not only a special snowflake for BTP or for Steampunk. So the ABAP Cloud as a development model is in the meanwhile also available for S/4HANA Cloud in case of public edition. In case of the public edition, it is available since last year. And even for the private edition and S/4HANA on-premise, this ABAP Cloud development model is also available. So it means it's not an accident. So it's by intent that we really want to have these synergies of all these new things in the ABAP world. And again, we did a lot in the ABAP areas. In the meanwhile, a model-driven approach, how to build business applications based on ABAP together with HANA as a database.
So Frank, just one question. So as far as I know, SAP S/4HANA Cloud Edition is basically SAP SaaS service with S/4HANA Cloud. I mean, special version. You are not allowed to develop. Generally, customers always have a need to customize their own stuff. They are not allowed to deploy those custom stuff in the S/4HANA Cloud, because then this is the way how you can easily upgrade. But then through the Steampunk, actually, you're offering them as well ability to extend the functionality of the existing S/4HANA Cloud system. For example, that could be one scenario in a separate environment as a Cloud PaaS service. Is that so? What I'm understanding is also you're offering the same stuff for the on-premises system as well.
So the point is we have now an option also for the so-called on-stack extensibility, so that you can develop something within the stack. And this is mentioned here in that picture, that if we are looking into this S/4HANA Cloud instance, you can now also develop within the S/4HANA public cloud, but following the new ABAP Cloud development model. And that's new since last year. And in addition, you have continuously this option to use the side-by-side approach with the ABAP on BTP, which is Steampunk. This is the first row in that table. And now we have these two options. So one is the on-stack extensibility. If you need to have access to the to a huge amount of data, where it makes more sense to have direct access via CDS views and the like, or for other scenarios where side-by-side makes more sense in order to separate additional user groups and so on, and have a separate life cycle. For that purpose, you can use the Steampunk environment, which is SAP BTP ABAP environment.
So the main benefits or the huge advantages from my point of view is with ABAP Cloud, with the whole ABAP Cloud methodology, you really separate, or you force the developer to not mingle too much with the system, so that the whole upgrade capabilities are much easier.
Exactly.
And now ABAP Cloud is not only available here in Steampunk, so in this SaaS offering, or in this PaaS offering, basically. PaaS offering, where I go and develop and can connect via all the existing functionalities with the SAP Cloud Connector to my SAP system and stuff like that. So I can really build extensions in the cloud. But now with this embedded integration, I can also do this in my existing S/4HANA system. So let's say if I'm a customer that is currently just using on-premise software, basically. Maybe I still have my SAP systems on-premise. Maybe I'm using RISE in the PCE and in the private cloud.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I can already start developing using the new ABAP Cloud methodology, so that I am much more upgrade ready, basically. But potentially I can also then at some point in time say, well, now I want to use the BTP ABAP environment, and I want to take my source code from the embedded environment up to the cloud and have it running there in in the ABAP environment, in
Exactly.
the BTP
So,
ABAP environment.
Well, we will see later on this example from Martin, and Martin will show this within the Steampunk environment. So in this environment of the first row of this table, and the same code would also run, and it would also work completely in S/4HANA public cloud environment.
Cool.
And don't be confused. So this new approach with ABAP Cloud, so it's mandatory. It's mandatory for the public cloud edition because SAP is responsible for the upgrades and so on, and we need to make sure that everything works well. And but of course we and if I'm saying we, I mean S/4HANA. The S/4HANA private edition and also on-premise need to be, of course, compatible with earlier versions. So therefore, the usage of ABAP Cloud is optional. It's highly recommended in order to have easier upgrades in the future, but it's optional, first of all. So it's also important not to confuse the customers that they need to migrate the custom code in the private edition and on-premise. ABAP Cloud here is optional, but mandatory in public cloud and also in BTP environment. All right, so but now I think we move a bit more to what we also want to explain here. So the support of Steampunk now also on Azure. So I would like to show you this also very quickly in the Discovery Center. Of course, there is a blog post which we rolled out beginning of June. So it's the availability of Steampunk on all the supported Azure data centers from BTP. So BTP is supporting exactly 7 data centers, including the EU access in Switzerland. And for all these 7 BTP supported data centers, now Steampunk is also available. And this is also reflected in the Discovery Center of all BTP services. And if we select Azure, then we can also see these supported 7 data centers here.
Perfect.
The community liked most the free tier. We saw several comments on that. Yeah.
Exactly, free tiers offered on all except the EU in access data center in Switzerland. So on all these other 6 data centers, correct. Yeah, and first of all, thank you very much for this really great collaboration. It was a teamwork, of course, but it's not only the word teamwork. You know, this is anyhow always the case. But no, it was really a physical team. I would call it a physical team working together with the same on the same product backlog and so on. So it was really a great collaboration. So therefore, thank you very much again to all the involved colleagues. This was really, really great.
Perfect.
We'll pass that on to the engineers in Waldorf from Microsoft who worked on it. That's from Jürgen Thomas's team. He's been on the show a couple of times, Holger, right?
Absolutely, yes. No, and I think that also shows. I mean, this is just one example of where the teams from SAP and Microsoft are working very closely together. You said it, sitting together in Waldorf or in St. Leon Roth, or similarly the SAP colleagues that sit in Redmond with us and work there very closely on different kinds of integration. So I think, yeah, that's just another really cool result of the close collaboration that we have.
Yeah.
But then I think, Martin, you also took this opportunity to have now ABAP running on Azure on BTP, and you also created some really cool demos or use cases out of this, right?
For sure, yeah. Frank, you're done with what you wanted to show for this? Shall we move on to the demos?
Real. I would also like to see code, always code. Nothing else.
Okay, then let's get cranking.
Yeah.
So Martin, maybe before, I know a lot of folks know you already, but maybe a few words about yourself.
Yes, for sure. Martin Pankraz. I'm a product manager for SAP integration at Microsoft. I'm part of the same team as Holger is. we like look at the Microsoft SAP integration like as a workload across the portfolio, and that involves BTP, but also Azure Active Directory or the new Microsoft Entra ID, since last week, I
Good
believe.
point.
Yeah, and like the Power Platform Dynamics. So really across the board, wherever there's interface relevant for SAP, we like have our hands in. And and part of this is also prototyping and advocacy for this. And we also believe in ABAP Cloud, since I spun up this blog series and like engage the community with the Microsoft integration scenarios for this. So let's share the first one. This is basically the entry post. Kickstart your platform integration journey for ABAP with Microsoft. And in here, like it goes on for a couple of weeks, where I put in announcement relevance for this. For instance, we started our ABAP like engagements at the beginning of this year at DSAC with a large scale developer day. And this nicely then led into all the efforts around ABAP Cloud that we do over this year since the release. And already, as Frank explained, there's two flavors. There's posts for both, because many of them are reusable. Yeah, doesn't matter where you run the code. And we'll be deep diving a little more into the part one here, where we have Excel as the consumer of the RAP objects and the exposed OData services for it. So, but before we go there, I want to quickly go into the ABAP development tools. So this is the new home for every ABAP developer. And to me,
new home is a relative term, right? I mean, I just learned that ADT has been around now for 10 years. So it's a old new home, I would say.
That's true, but even I made a change on SE80 2 weeks ago, so I'm guilty.
You know what? I haven't even installed ADT, to be frank. I mean, I'm still more the SAP GUI guy.
Yeah, but I think there's still room for evangelizing the approach.
Yes.
And to me, the coolest thing is, and maybe also one of the biggest reasons why you would want to do RAP and ADT. For instance, you see here my database tables. And from here, you can just right-click and ask it to generate the remaining parts of the ABAP repository like tree. And that generates everything through the definitions, the data service, the service binding. So you get everything till the Fiori Elements UI, just with one click and then a couple of names that you need to provide.
Yeah.
So there's no manual effort for this. Even you start from scratch, you have an empty table, right? And then you can start filling it from the UI. And
I actually think, if I'm not mistaken, you can also really create an OData service out of this directly. So that via the annotations, you can just say enable OData equals true. And then, I mean, that's just easy.
Exactly, It went all the way. What I'm looking at here right now is my OData v4 UI, like service binding, which comes with a fully blown OData service. And all of this has been like generated out of the box. And when you go in here on the preview, loads up your environment, and then you can start from here creating.
Really cool, yeah.
And this is without additional coding. You generate it from a table that describes what this entity is.
So you're saying this is low code?
Maybe we need new term there. Maybe it's
yes.
Like that's why steampunk is maybe a good thing. Yeah, so it's something that is alive, but maybe not. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So, like I said, Frank, this is one of the coolest things for me in ADT and as well as RAP, to this capability. All right, and from there, once you have all of this set up, before you can start consuming, you need a communication arrangement. That is something that is like well known to everyone doing SAP Cloud. Here, you have like a triplet always. You have a communication user, you have a communication system, and an arrangement. And in ADT, I'm publishing like my arrangement, which describes what the service is about. As you see here, my two inbound services for OData, V4 and V2. And then you supply like the configuration, how you can consume this. And when we open my arrangement, you will see in here the services again, and that there is my username. In this case, I'm using username and password, but you could also have the client certificate, and for some other flavors, there's like other flows available as well. And by the way, the client certificate flow is also on the blog series. When you go there, check out part 2 here to get a deep dive on how to get that done. All right, so I promised we're going to see some more code. This is part 1 of the blog series. And I already spoke about ADT and the setup for the communication arrangement, etc. And the purpose of this is to be able to interact with the service from Microsoft Excel, retrieving stuff and also changing. And I already went ahead and like pulled this into my Excel file. You see here, there's like the pickers, and you can influence what fields you want from the data service. And then we'll move into interacting with it. So let me open my file.
Maybe
so in
just
here,
very briefly, Martin, just to do a step back. So basically, you have now BTP, the ABAP environment. That's what you have, and then you connected ADT, so your ABAP design time in Eclipse, to this ABAP instance in the cloud, basically. Then you took some tables, you created an OData service out of this, and this OData service is now something that you're consuming here in Excel.
Exactly. You can see here my the service that I'm calling, and this is what pulled the data in here.
Perfect.
So this is like an Excel format table, and since it's a live connection, I can just click a refresh here, and that gets me a fresh pull of data. So this is the recent stage in SAP.
So again, if you would remove some of these lines here and then just hit refresh, then they're all back, because this is really the single source of truth is our ABAP system on BTP. Exactly. And that's where you're just fetching live data.
We can actually even do that. Yeah. So I deleted that row. There it is again.
Perfect. Cool.
Yeah. But now we want to make an update on SAP, right? So I'm going to in here, and we are going to raise prices aggressively. And we're also going to make a change on the description. And this Excel sheet here has the capability to interact with or integrate with other services through our workflow engine in Power Platform. And in here, you see here there's this flow that is attached to this.
You might need to hit enter, right, in the description field, because you're still in edit mode. But
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. And from here, I can run for a selected row. I can run the update. And cool. Let's do that. I need to re-authenticate. Let's quickly check. And this is, by the way, all provided through GitHub from the blog series. You can recreate all of this yourself.
That was expected, Martin. If you are publishing a blog post, then we always know we have all the steps. We have everything on GitHub. Perfect.
Yeah, so the flow executed. Let's have a quick look. By the way, here, this is the Excel online view for this. It's the same capabilities. But I want to go in here.
Really so I'm refreshing the Power Automate flow.
Exactly, yeah. So you see here 27 seconds ago, run succeeded. Let's have a quick look in. So for the selected row from Excel, this is standard connector. Yeah, it comes out of the box. I went in and called the field and asked for the relevant security attributes that OData needs, and then actually ran the update from here. Yeah, where we provide all the things, and SAP replies with 2 or 4 if the request was accepted. And then, as a cherry on the cake, this posts the success message to you on Teams, so that you can always see what happened there. And I need to unpin this so I can click the upper tab. Maybe I do it like this. There it is. And you can see here there I get my pop-up message that we made this change and raised price from 100 to 900 and also changed the description. Yeah, so that you get like a feedback flow.
Yeah. Cool.
And there you go. Yeah, there was complete interaction with the ABAP environment, nicely integrating with M365 on Teams, as well as working on all of this from Excel.
Really, really cool. And I mean, in your case, obviously, the starting point again was the ABAP environment on BTP on Azure. Potentially, this could also be your S/4HANA system on premise, or in RISE in PC or something like that. You would have the same functionality, the same starting points. You would use ADT to connect, expose to your data service, get it in Excel, use Power Automate to interact with this. Really nice scenario.
Exactly. Yeah, you would even see that on ADT. Yeah, when you can have here, this is BTP ABAP environment. I could now connect here to another system. Yeah, that would be then an ABAP project, but I would put the properties on ABAP Cloud. Yeah, for the code. Yeah.
Yeah. Really nice. Cool.
And in the embedded series, I describe an approval flow. So there's also ABAP code involved on the actual save button. So imagine that you go in here, you make a change on the object, and once you click the save, I have an override that sends this as an approval to Teams, and you can click approve or reject, and actually influence then the overall status here. Yeah, so same example but slightly different flow. And also on the embedded Steampunk flavor. Yeah, so the S/4HANA Cloud private edition in our case, yeah, since it runs on our internal system on Azure. And there, for the next iteration, we'll do an OpenAI case, and I have something else lined up with GraphQL. Yeah, but watch out for the next blog post there. Yeah?
Some teasers, yeah. But
exactly.
Cool. Good.
Yeah,
no, I think that's
what we wanted to show for this. Yeah. Anything else from you and Frank?
Looks really great. So and I like all these examples and all these nice documentation on GitHub to really make use of it and use it also for our own ideas and as a starting point. So it's really great, very useful.
Yeah, and we can already notice that many customers look at this, and some even for productive use cases, because we had some of them reach out to us. We need productive client certificates. Like, whew, okay, so we are looking at integration scenarios here. Now we need something like this. But the team went in, that was also very helpful, yeah, from your colleagues describing it, how to do it with Azure API management, for instance.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Cool. No, thank you so much. I mean, Frank, thanks for coming on the show today. Thanks for all the work that you're doing also in the background, obviously, to make this happen. Martin, as always, thanks for these beautiful examples and all these fantastic blog posts. I'm definitely gonna look forward to the new ones. And with this, I would say let's close the call today. Thank you so much, and we'll definitely see each other again.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye-bye.